Hello, foreign and domestic intelligence families have been changing the communications of individuals' voices, even leaders, no matter how powerful they get, they change what they communicate. Nature shows us that the identity of communications is simultaneously greater than and more finite than, and with active relativity to what is said, in ways that the interbranch and intelligence tied to them have offensively forbid our appreciation of. Since the 80s and before that, the federal and the states have been criminally foreign influenced, intercities and intra-cities, intercampuses and intra-campuses. There are a number of Russians and people from other countries, people from Korea involved with Russians, and with all these and people from Saudi Arabia, where Saudi people from Saudi Arabia and American intelligence were forced collusions with a hyper foreign. A bunch of people with a Connecticut interbranch have been switching and forging names, also with their sources and their sources interbranch and intelligence. They have collusion slash S with organized crime acts and methods with databases, and they have been building upon that. And then they were shown needs to hide that and pretend to and to screen that. So they started pretending about that they're against people getting arrested a lot of times, they're getting let out. And the opposite, and both sides and the difference are assenting for the reaching method. If anyone tries to bring appreciation of proper, the state of Connecticut corrections offices and judicial branch offices have names at it, next to it, and just driving by it. The difference of that as collusion slash S with the World Trade Center attack, Connecticut's roles with Washington, D.C. There are proofs that Fetterman, that he's trying to get next to the president so he could have conversations with the mental health community, as people do, and they fake conversations with people at the same time. They put whole fake transcripts where the intelligence community has a whole bunch of different countries at Hartford Hospital, New Britain medical campuses, Whiting Forensics, state police families, interstates, CIA, FBI, involved with people with the name Smith and Collusion. Now, I don't know why there's a dead spot under the tree. I didn't put anything. My mother asked me about it too. Right where I punch that tree sometimes, boxing. See, this club family has a bunch of people making threats from other areas and with themselves from the distance. They've been doing this through time, planting fake evidences. Weathersfield police faked conversations with me being at the police station as a kid. Now as an adult too. A bunch of people with the name Mendez are involved with some confessions of a DeMoro family. A DeMoro family and Collusion family said they have a shared relative named relatives named Scalora. A bunch of people with the name Scalora have been attaching me to fake locations with intelligence families near me that are involved with identity thefts with retired police chiefs and foreign and domestic medical families, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and child abusers, leaders, and kids years apart, first forced. He also recorded capacity demonstrate firm roles with the military, with military families, with Central Connecticut State University, with his educators at Highcrest School, involved also with Russians with them, with the Weathersfield police chiefs retired, and with medical crimes intercities. A bunch of people with the name Mayano, Aiello, and DeMoro next to Hartford Hospital increasingly have collusion where those are houses and businesses next to Hartford Hospital's campus in Hartford, Connecticut. These same names have collusions, planting evidence and sequence shifts on all sides of people's houses with foreign and domestic, including mayors from Weathersfield and other cities of Connecticut, and their families and intimate ties and different natures of conjunctions to them. Like a Ruth is reportedly but also recorded one of the ones of a retired mayors and a former mayor Gold and his family members have roles with the John DeMoro, making and people tied to him regarding some rape threats and confessions that New Britain Superior Court has ruled with sexual and medical abuses of little kids with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, not legitimately, with the military planting fake evidences with the people that influence them to say things and do things. They just fake that too. So if it's ever brought up, there were collusion/s there with the hyperforeign shows them have to do doing that. A bunch of people with the town lines have connections between themselves and their roles with the Connecticut interbranch that have been refusing to identify themselves legitimately while simultaneously stacking fake things in databases, collusion/s, fake conversations and ties to me, changed communications with me, and changed ties, natures of ties to me. Even attaching me, WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and others while I caught them forcing one of the child abusers leader to the kids with families involved with that years apart too. And including increasingly the sources of WTNH with a whole bunch of different stories and the sources of and influences over the syntax of the network, other networks. Also with the differences of the guilt of their intelligence or next to them. There are proofs that there is intelligence next to Fox News in Manhattan involved with this because I was in the Ninth Circuit Court right before the World Trade Center attack. And it's recorded a bunch of ways before the attack and after it. Former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, had a whole bunch of predicate acts roles with a whole bunch of different countries, including Saudi Arabia, with foreign and domestic as they are actually shared with their family members on and off campuses. A bunch of family members of foreign have time collusions with the extended family members of probate court judges and superior court judges and prosecutors and victims advocates and ones with the district court. Even if there are any ways legitimately with unmarked, overt criminal enterprises, private ones and all that, they're using that, but they don't have the right to lie and do that. And they pretend, that's the readings of statutes, leaving out exceptions, you're faking it. Increasingly, the corrections officers and judicial branch offices have roles of wire crime acts and methods with the interbranch. They already put fake mail, change and fake digital evidences. Whiting forensics increasingly has collusions with so many natures of organized crimes. They owe more money. Actually, there are natures of industries like psychiatry. Is overtly criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. On a mass scale, they've been sticking fake transcripts there as their roles with foreign and domestic military. And so, in other words, this is every type of position. A military, someone's given their life, and they have to follow orders too, otherwise they're, destroyed. Now, the difference between, their styles of, they're preventing they're pretending even when they're pretending we critique, they're pretending we're attacking their differences. When our founders communicated to explain how and why there was guilt, of course, and they didn't even have free speech. That's why they only allowed us to know the individual name of one of themselves, our founders, plural. It was James Madison. Every other person was and is still counter extorted. That's what the obligations of getting the Constitution unabridged and appreciating why and how we have rights are too numerous to have to list them. WFSB stole my identity, attached me to fake words, and about the World Trade Center attack. With themselves, fake locations with themselves and with others. They changed communications with me and my family. Put fake communications with me and my family. They have roles with a bunch of people tied to totally different murders years apart. Not legitimately with the investigator, increasingly time collusion/s with all natures of crime scenes and names next to them. Originally, still everyone had roles of predicate acts with facts methods that no one wanted collusions with. But they had to anyway. So they had to be standing criminal insidiousness natures, incapable of affording voicings by the value of the Constitution unabridged, which cares about the human species body of individual bodies. An individual finite species body is made up of a whole bunch of individual finite bodies. It is a simultaneous part of ourselves. We are distinct from the other species bodies, but non-distinct from them. we are simultaneous with them, but also per that which is generating the differences as that, but will not as it any way. And study this reveals to an extent is how we can discern the need scientifically to name that identity of value slash variable. I digress. Get me off the fake conversations of that, please, Maria Bartiromo. Since I was a kid, increasingly all these countries have roles with NASA, a bunch of confessions. I never had a conversation with the person, nice person. Great people, then they become evil when they start repeating fake things. And that's only allowed. And or using truths for lies. And or to put lies between it. And that's what everyone's forcing individuals, even leaders, to do. That's why, even if he doesn't realize it, it was probably one of the reasons President Trump wants to have the word truth social. See, people are going, show Epstein list. They want a list. They don't want to parse, their predators mixed. And so, everyone's forced to be a predator, too, with black pupils, whites of eyes. Otherwise, we are sensed. Otherwise, this would have surfaced, this hyper-evidential. That would have shown natures of experts, all natures of differences, roles with their own differences or the other people's, including the identities of law, incapable of speaking for difference properly, as trained, or what they call it. The names of the people of the sciences have self-valued them being and haven't been abridged from off their locations. Hyper-additional collusion /S only remembered manifest. Now, it affects them. In other words, we shouldn't have to know about all these logistics and things like that would be between the countries when we have recorded their collusions /S. Like all these different countries involved with people with an two-route highway and conjunctions to it. Like, for example, and people with the corners of the street. WTNH has been planting evidences with people named O'Neill, too, involved with the World Trade Center attack, where the Saudis were forced to collusions, where their identity was used remotely by the attackers, and our side, too. Our side's used remotely. I am offensively being and haven't been forbid free speech. I caught them right before the World Trade Center attack with Connecticut, with the FBI director Robert Luskin, his co-defendants and their family members, involved with a bunch of Connecticut courts, planting evidences at West Hartford locations, New Britain locations, foreign and domestic military. The leader, Dean Judd, his kid, I never had a word of conversation with them. They were planting evidences, sequence as fake motivations. They hid the request for help before that Eric Burgess made. And I didn't tell them how I was going to ask. I asked for help. And they keep attaching me to fake conversations with people, even doctors. And the ones because I had very short conversations with a couple of them, and they can't have that, they pretended it doesn't fit in that. And they make confessions a waste of time. Bring in their kids, too. Interbranch and intelligence bring in their kids as their fake motivations to hide behind and through, as the way the breaching method keeps that outcome /S. So a bunch of people involved with people with the name Collusion and tomorrow with the intelligence community have a bunch of judges and prosecutors that have been speaking fake things in databases with them, on off the corrections offices, on off the judicial branch offices, also with their educators. And a whole bunch of people tied to them have been planting evidence on all sides of my house, and roles with a Robert Rodriguez and others with Whiting Forensics, with digital crimes, and with Wethersfield Police. The Wethersfield Police Facebook page has a Schumack family, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed through time, involved with foreign and domestic intelligence, people from other campuses, involved with people that I didn't even have classes with, that were in my schools, that were involved with the intelligence families next to me, putting identity theft, fraud, slanders, and collusions, roles with uses of all natures of investigators in their campuses used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Interstates, too. These are people involved with Vermont, with a Neville family, involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and his co-defendants and their family members, with unions involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, people involved with readings of statutes where people in unions could lie about other people, and then they use it at locations where they're not, like on campuses, and where they're planting evidences and changing and faking what's actually recorded. And then oh, that in other words, and then they want to hide that in the future. That girl, I don't know, there's some girl from my school, increasingly, who told lies about me to the women I knew since I was a kid, to little girls I knew. The roles with it, with the FBI director tied to Heather Hansen, and a Judge Smith, and a Judge Killian, and others with digital crimes, rape threats, and roles with the New Britain Superior Court with falsified police reports, Harper Courts with wire mail crimes. These are a whole bunch of people at Harvard Hospital's Institute of Living, and with the houses and businesses next to it, who have roles with predicate acts on my street from in Wethersfield through time, with the same house/S involved with the police fabricating police reports. They brought up the name Bose. I don't know if that's tied to a Bose Bird, a Chris Walters and a Ray Collusion, years apart. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed there's a Charlie Bose, and Chris Walters says there's a sister of his involved with them with federal evidences crimes, with people from and identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, and their roles with the people with child abuses at different campuses, people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders from Main Street in Old Wethersfield, all the way along Route 3, and Route 175 rather, but the same ones on Route 3, all the way along Route 175 through Wethersfield, through Newington, and to Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut. Their roles with corners of streets on that and conjunctions, people act and have others record, put fake ties to people, which keep getting brought up too. And Eric Jensen and Justin Klobinskis have roles with some black KKK themed, Confederate flag themed religious spot on Route 3, with also a Joshua Julian and a Joshua Schumack and his mother, with the Facebook page of Wethersfield Police Department, involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids, roles with federal evidences crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting evidences, with this Mark Violet, a bunch of people at Harvard Hospital, and the businesses and houses next to it have collusions, even from there right in a line to UPS, involved with a Oliveri family, with Elm Streets, and with conjunctions in corners of the street along Route 3, with the state judicial branch offices, and their roles also with the Joshua Stryker at Trinity College, involved with Officer Darth Vader, involved with some sexual and medical offenders of kids on off campuses, intercities connected, and the people with Harvard Hospital involved with it, and Zion Street next to it. The same people pretending other in the background. A whole bunch of students and adults, kids and adults next to Trinity College when I was a kid, before I even went there. And now when I'm an adult, they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, planting evidence on my street, also with the FBI in my area, and their roles with the Witness Protection Program at the corner of the street. A bunch of people like a Jeremy Grohl and Subby Bajaria have roles with also people with the name Pierce, a Jody Pierce. They try to make a fake ties to me. That with the DeMoro family, also with people next to the community center. They walked by me one time real fast in the community center, and they said it was tied to their. They confessed it was tied to their. I didn't, what they had a conversation with someone about the Tuttle House before that, and that was after that. No, that was the only time I ever saw them at the Tuttle House. They wanted to go to the Tuttle House after that. They said that real quick when they came in there. They were planting evidence with a Kevin Dillon, who was one of the ones involved with the police for switching and forging names. I never had a word of conversation with Kevin Dillon or with that older Mendez police brother. He pretended he had a conversation with at the police station. In other words, the New Britain Superior Court also has those Mendez brothers with the Wethersfield Police Station involved with organized crime acts, predicate acts, child abuse acts, identity theft frauds with them, falsified police reports, and judges and prosecutors, their kids are involved. And those are ones personally and professionally involved with the Leahy family, with fake conversations with me. And there's a Lombardo family. They also have people tied to them involved with all kinds of organized crimes acts and methods on my street from other areas, even though I never saw them on my street. A Rick Cianfaglione spread lies about me behind my back with a Brian Silver as one of the people involved with prosecutors and judges, a Judge Smith, a bunch of probate court judges and their family members, like ones with the name Dellafera and Spada, have roles with drugs and medicines, crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and confessions. Three people at the end of the Brown Turnpike. Fred Grisey is involved with them with identity thefts, fraud, slanders, and with people from other campuses planting evidences with the family members, with the kids of the family members working at the campuses. And then they'll block out the right people from working at the campuses because they're keeping it covered up how they already used the three branches of government, criminally punishable, tactically, their difference, every difference. So it's nothing personal against the service people like Marines involved, Navy involved, Air Force involved. Paul Kelly is one of the ones that will court confess, demonstrate, confirm. He has rules planting evidences all along Route 175 and conjunctions to it and to that with the people associated with former retired police chiefs and their intimate ties with the same house/S near me and people since before they moved into it. And with retired police chief and his intimate ties with the house, same house, and with people from where they moved from. And those are people increasingly with their educators involved with putting salt and with the guy with the smoke on the house. And increasingly people with my algebra teacher named Riley, people with the name Riley, and people with the name Faenza and Fazina, and others with the Board of Education. Neighbors of them have like a Brian Bonin has wire mail crimes with the intelligence community through time, and his neighbors involved with all kinds of natures of identity theft, fraud, slavery. It has something to do with their roles all along Route 3 and conjunctions to that, like the state judicial branch offices. But these are people on Two Route Highway, also with a Victorian house, reportedly tied to a Phil Collusion. Phil Collusion is further involved with a Bob Chase's confessions at Whiting Forensics. He wouldn't show me the police report. And now there's multiple police reports. They keep bring more officers' names in and things like that for the same police reports as confessions where they're pretending other. They also faked conversations with me and me being at the police station when I was a kid and I was an adult distinctly, but not distinctly too. I know they're untrustworthy. That's one of the reasons why and how they get away with pretending legitimate honesty spoke for New York City or any location. The suburbs, they have other communicated about for the Webb House and why there's a witch trials place next to it. Even if it was completely made up or who made that up regardless. We're supposed to appreciate that breaching method against president/chief because it's against every individual voice, no matter how powerful a leader could get. In any grouping of nations, while locations, areas, and states or styles, qualities, aspects of fact human nature. Forbidding free speech by pretending and preventing people from reporting it too. Please get them on paper, one name in sequence, Maria Bartiromo. I beg you guys online because they use wire crime acts and methods where they fake phone transcripts with FBI Director Robert Luskin and other federal involved also with the state's corruption, intercities and intercampuses at and next to Fox Connecticut News, for example. I'll sign, I won't sue you guys. Just let me get your sources. And the FBI Director Robert Luskin, like the Thaddeus Grabowski, He has a bunch of people involved with former Mayor Gold and his family members and people all along Hangdog Lane and Turot Highway and corners of the streets involved with Russians involved. Earlier, through the administration's shown fake transcripts in the equivalent, including as World Trade Center attack, collusion /S, but they are incapable of countering legal things here and there because they already use their differences and all differences as systems tactile ulterior from that one generating the differences grouped where we are individual species bodies of individual bodies. It generates all the group differences so the way that we can discern its body that way. Anyway, so in other words, please get me off the fake conversations with WFSB and their sources. They recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirm they have a bunch of people with whiting forensics and with New Britain Superior Court, Harper Courts, and the District Court involved with digital crimes and medical, as one's personally and professionally involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids, other natures of organized crimes at triages where they're putting fake transcripts as collusion /S with crime scenes from there, as people involved with courts doing the same, and with people that run the prisons, increasingly time collusions with names next to body dumping spots, time collusions with child abusers, leaders of kids, pretending to be against child abuse. They even have their forced patients and criminals and their doctors time sequence shifts, time wire crime action rules and methods, collusions, even with Puerto Rico and the name Citron. Increasingly, people tied to this police chief Citron and Mazzucato Bakery and their neighbors, intercities of Connecticut and interstates in foreign with a police chief Citron and one years ago, involved with people from other areas planting evidence on my street I never saw on my street. And like Reno Mazzucato is reportedly married to a Jessica Citron. I never saw Reno Mazzucato inside of a campus in my life. In other words, and they made one exception on Route 175, is increasingly involved with people with whiting forensics, involved with the Reno Mazzucato and people on my street with retired police chiefs and their intimate ties, like him married to the daughter of a police chief Citron, involved also with the other police chiefs and like a detective Dylan and some guy who says his partner, people involved with home break-ins in my area. Please get them on paper, one name and sequence, falsified police reports. They're stacking fake things in databases for a long time, intercities, with the same ones, timed. Then they lie. When they're hid what was actually recorded on Facebook a whole bunch of ways at the same time. The agencies and the courts have rules making fake Facebook pages, taking them to make it so, oh, well, I don't understand, because they only go things before the courts if they're going to leave out what's actually capable of being discerned. They already had all kinds of natures of collusions with all crime scenes. Originally, still, they never went away. That's what it's about, black people's whites of eyes, collusion /S. Otherwise, that body is sensible through our own. Hello. Please, Maria Bartiromo and Fox News, please get me off the fake conversations with WFSB. WFSB, if you do what's right, we'll just focus on your sources, including the interbranch, and you won't be in trouble. In other words, as much like with the guy who did that, the guy who faked conversation, what is it? His name, Roger Suzanne. Get him off the air though.